Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. The first step is to establish that something is possible, then probability will occur. I do think there is a lot of potential if you have a compelling product and people are willing to pay a premium for that. I think that's what Apple has shown. You can buy a much cheaper cell phone or laptop, but Apple's product is so much better than the alternative, and people are willing to pay that premium. The path to the CEO's office should not be through the CFO's office, and it should not be through the marketing department. It needs to be through engineering and design. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. You shouldn't do things differently just because they're different. They need to be better. I think it's important to have a future that is inspiring and appealing. I just think there have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? There's a tremendous bias against taking risks. Everyone is trying to optimize their ass covering. I don't create companies for the sake of creating companies, but to get things done. It's very important to like the people you work with, otherwise life and your job is gonna be quite miserable. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. I think most of the important stuff on the internet has been built. There will be continued innovation, for sure, but the great problems of the internet have essentially been solved. I think life on Earth must be about more than just solving problems. It's got to be something inspiring, even if it is vicarious. Brand is just a perception, and perception will match reality over time. Sometimes it will be ahead, other times it will be behind. But brand is simply a collective impression some have about a product. I think that's the single best piece of advice: constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. If you want to grow a giant redwood, you need to make sure the seeds are okay, nurture the sapling, and work out what might potentially stop it from growing all the way along. Anything that breaks it at any point stops that growth. When I was in college, I wanted to be involved in things that would change the world. If you need inspiring words, don't do it. You want to have a future where you're expecting things to be better, not one where you're expecting things to be worse. I think the best way to attract venture capital is to try and come up with a demonstration of whatever product or service it is, and ideally take that as far as you can. Just see if you can sell that to customers and start generating some momentum. The further along you can get with that, the more you'll be able to convince investors to put money into your company. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. I'm interested in things that change the world or that affect the future, and wondrous new technology where you see it, and you're like, wow, how did that even happen? How is that possible? I think that's the main quality of a good entrepreneur, figuring out how to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before. I don't believe in process. In fact, when I interview a potential employee and he or she says that it's all about the process, I see that as a bad sign. The problem is that at a lot of big companies, process becomes a substitute for thinking. You're encouraged to behave like a little gear in a complex machine. Frankly, it allows you to keep people who aren't that smart, who aren't that creative. I don't think it's a good idea to plan to sell a company. I don't spend my time pontificating about high concept things, I spend my time solving engineering and manufacturing problems. If something has to be designed and invented, and you have to figure out how to ensure that the value of the thing you create is greater than the cost of the inputs, then that is probably my core skill. I could either watch it happen or be a part of it. I think we have a duty to maintain the light of consciousness to make sure it continues into the future. Really pay attention to negative feedback and solicit it, particularly from friends. Hardly anyone does that, and it's incredibly helpful. I think we're at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100-hour weeks every week. This improves the odds of success. If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. The secret to innovation is not being afraid to fail. A company is a group organized to create a product or service, and it is only as good as its people and how excited they are about creating. I do want to recognize a ton of super talented people. I just happen to be the face of the companies. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. Starting and growing a business is as much about the innovation, drive, and determination of the people behind it as the product they sell. I always have optimism, but I'm realistic. It was not with the expectation of great success that I started Tesla or SpaceX. It's just that I thought they were important enough to do anyway. I always invest my own money in the companies that I create. I don't believe in the whole thing of just using other people's money. I think it's important to have a future that is inspiring and feels like it's really worth striving for. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. I would like to die on Mars. Just not on impact. It is possible for a single person to change the world, and if you can't do it, no one else will. I think most of the important stuff on the internet has been built. The next frontier is space. If you want to make $1 million, you don't need to build a product. You just need to convince 1 billion people that they each need a toothbrush. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work in the morning, and enjoy working. The secret to success is to do the common things uncommonly well. My biggest mistake is probably weighing too much on someone's talent, and not someone's personality. I think it matters whether someone has a good heart. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. I think we're going to Mars because it's a challenge we can solve. It's important to have a future where you're optimistic about the future, excited about the future, and happy to be alive. If you're not progressing, you're regressing. The thing that's worth doing is trying to improve our understanding of the world and gain a better appreciation of the universe and not to worry too much about there being no meaning. And, try and enjoy yourself. Because, actually, life's pretty good. It really is. If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. If something's important enough, you should try. Even if the probable outcome is failure. Great companies are built on great products. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe.